What's going on, Walking Dead fans? It's me, the X-Men guy, and today we are going to be talking about why I think The Walking Dead Season 2 is the best season of The Walking Dead. Without further ado, let's get into it. One way to find out why I like this season better than all the other seasons is to look at what the later seasons do worse. Now, a big complaint from the later seasons is that the walkers or zombies in the show don't seem like a threat. They seem stale, they're boring, and they take more of a backdrop to the human threats. But in this season, the walkers are still fresh and pose a real threat. Not saying that it disregards all the human drama, there's still a lot of that. It's not totally absent of a human villain, but it's not overly obvious, and it's not their main worry on what to handle. Their main worry is to survive the walkers, save Carl, and rescue Sophia. And speaking of good characters, the new characters in this season are great. There are two new characters that I want to emphasize in this season: Maggie and Hershel. Maggie and Hershel both live on the farm that Carl is brought to be rescued at. And Hershel is immediately found as a fan favorite. He's an old man living on his farm with his daughters and his really entire family, and he still holds the moral integrity of someone from before the apocalypse. And it's something that a lot of people find endearing. A lot of people like Hershel, and I do too. And without him, Carl wouldn't survive a few more seasons, or a lot more seasons. I forget what season Carl actually died in, so yeah. But anyway, Hershel is a great character, but the even better character is Maggie, who still survived the whole show and has her own spin-off show with her archenemy, Negan. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Maggie starts a relationship with another fan favorite, Glenn. And this is not a huge focus of this season, but still a pretty good story arc. I think Maggie is introduced greatly, and her character development over the whole show, not just this season, is great. And all the new characters work well. Beth is good. Yeah, the entire family of Hershel and Maggie are really great additions to the show. Character dynamics in this season are at the best it is, in my opinion, the entire show. You have Hershel and Rick, two leaders of different groups with totally different philosophies, but they end up working together in harmony. Then there's Shane and Rick, which we'll get to later, and so many others. There's Daryl and Carol, the best friends who go on to be very important and a staple of The Walking Dead. And so many other arcs, starting, finishing, whatever it is. Each arc is treated greatly, and I think gets its own time to shine in the season. Especially Shane's, but again, going over that later. What I think brings out the biggest, defining moment in whether a character is going to adapt to the apocalypse or keep their own values from before the apocalypse. One of the characters that I think shines in this moment is Carl. Now, Carl is about to execute the prisoner, and if you didn't know Carl, he's basically Rick's kid, and he doesn't want Carl to go down a bad side. And I think with Carl almost executing the prisoner, it shows what it's like for someone like him to grow up in the apocalypse. And it's a very interesting plot point to explore. But anyway, let's address the elephant in the room, Shane. Before the apocalypse, Shane was Rick's best friend, and Rick and Shane had a very close bond. They were co-workers, partners, everything. But once the apocalypse started, Rick was in the hospital and Shane had thought that he died. Now, during this time when he thought he was died, he formed a relationship with Rick's wife, Lori. And after that, there has been a rivalry brewing between the two once Rick came back to the group. Now, this all comes to a boiling point in this season, where we see Shane devolve into a villain. He kills Otis, who is only trying to help him, and he does a lot of other things that are very irredeemable. He even contemplates killing Rick, and once the group decides not to kill the prisoner, he kills him anyway. And this all ends in the most iconic scene in all The Walking Dead, me personally, what I think, other than the lineup scene, of Rick and Shane in a standoff. And ultimately, Rick kills Shane. I think, if you haven't watched the season already, go watch it. You probably should have watched it before this video. I'll have a spoiler warning. And yeah, I think the Shane arc is one of the best arcs in all of The Walking Dead. The final thing that I think this season does great is it improves upon Season 1. Season 1 was already good, but this catapulted The Walking Dead into being great. It did everything better. The characters, the threat of the walkers, the first real human threat, all of it was great. It made the main characters, seem more like a family, and it really progressed the whole series. But anyway, I want to know your opinion in the comments if YouTube lets me turn it on, because sometimes it doesn't let me. But yeah, goodbye.